Has arrived at 1:30 for us to start these committee meetings. And welcome everyone. It's good to be back to normal. And I also know we have a couple of new additions to this board, and of course I will reserve that official recognition for Chairman Bowen when he presides later today or tomorrow morning, whatever his privilege is. So with that, we'll start the Program Delivery Committee. And we'll have a major projects update by Program Delivery Director Albert Shelby. I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
Good afternoon.
You're the new and improved Albert.
Right, Mr.
Welcome and please begin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, members of the board. My name is Crystal Stovall-Dixon. I'm one of the assistant office heads in the Office of Program Delivery. I'm here to present various projects and corridors throughout the state of Georgia, representing GDOT Districts 1, 6, and 7. Okay, that's me. Okay. There we go. Okay, the first corridor that we'll talk about is State Route 20, and it extends from Cartersville in Bartow County to Cumming in Forsyth County. These projects propose to alleviate congestion, improve east-west mobility, and reduce crash frequency along the corridor. Completed projects will provide either a 4- or 6-lane roadway, and the corridor is approximately 39 miles. And the current estimated cost for the active projects along the corridor is $782,500,000. And this is a map of the corridor. You can see it going from Bartow through Forsyth. The first project is in Bartow and Cherokee counties. The proposed project will widen State Route 20 to 6 lanes with a 20-foot raised median from I-75 in Bartow to I-575 in Cherokee, and it's a total length of 19.41 miles. It represents a total investment of $259,293. This next project is in Cherokee County. The project actually let in March 2020, and it will also widen State Route 20 to 6 lanes with a 20-foot raised median. And it's from east of I-575 in the city of Canton to Scott Road. The total project length is 1 mile, and it represents an investment of $76 million. The next project is in Cherokee County. Again, it widens State Route 20 to 6 lanes, and it starts at Scott Road, and it goes to Union Hill Road with a project length of 2 miles and a total investment of $53 million. This next project in the corridor is in Cherokee County. It widens State Route 20 again to 6 lanes. It starts at Union Hill Road and it ends at Cherokee Drive for a total project length of 3 miles, and it represents a total investment of $71 million. This next project is also in Cherokee County. It's widening State Route 20 to 6 lanes, starting at East Cherokee Drive and ending at State Route 369. It's 2 miles, and it represents an investment of $48.7 million. This next project, this one is actually in Cherokee and Forsyth County. It widens State Route 20 to 6 lanes, and it starts at State Route 369 in Cherokee and ends at State Route 371 in Forsyth. The project length is 6.3 miles, and it represents an investment of $137,561,000. This project is in Forsyth County. It also widens State Route 20 to 6 lanes. It starts at Post Road and it ends at North Corners Parkway for a length of 5.2 miles. It represents an investment of $136,881. So that's complete State Route 20. The State Route 92 corridor extends from Douglas County to Cobb County. The project's proposed to alleviate congestion, improve east-west mobility, and reduce crash frequency along the corridor. When completed, the projects will provide 4 lanes of roadway, and the corridor is approximately 8 miles long, and the total investment is $157,700,000. And the first project that we'll highlight in this corridor is in Paulden County. The project proposes to widen State Route 92 to 4 lanes from Old Burnt Hickory Road to Pickett's Mill Road for 2.34 miles, and it represents an investment of $37 million. The next project in Cobb County will widen State Route 92 to 4 lanes, and it's from Pickett's Mill Place to State Route 3, US 41, for a total of 2 miles, and it represents a total investment of $35 million. Next, the project in Cobb County. It proposes to widen State Route 92 to 4 lanes. It starts at State Route 3, US 41, and it goes to Glade Road for a total of 2.8 miles, and it represents an investment of $64 million. And then finally, this project is in Cobb County. It proposes to replace the bridge on State Route 92 at Proctor Creek and Lake Ackworth. It's half a mile long, and it represents a total investment of $21 million. Our next corridor is State Route 5, and it extends from Blue Ridge towards McCaysville and Fannin County to the Tennessee state line. These projects propose to alleviate congestion, improve north-south mobility, and reduce crash frequency along State Route 5. Completed projects will provide 4 lanes of roadway, and the corridor is about 10 miles long, and it represents a total investment of $161 million. The first project in Fannin County will widen State Route 5. It begins just north of State Route 2, and it ends at Pineview Lane. And it will have 4 lanes with a 14-foot center turn lane. The approximate length is 1.24 miles, and it represents a total investment of $20 million. Okay. The next project is proposing to widen State Route 5 in Fannin County, beginning at Pineview Lane, ending at Washington Wilson Road. It'll widen to 4 lanes with a 14-foot center turn lane. It's about 5.65 miles long, and the total investment is $62 million. The next project will widen State Route 5, beginning at Washington Wilson Road and ending at Old Flowers Road. Project length is 1.5 miles. Total investment is about $20 million. And then finally, the next project is the new location bypass project. It will construct a new 2-lane bypass on new location from State Route 5 near County Road 18, just south of McCaysville, and it'll extend northward to the Tennessee state line, and it will possibly cross the state line into Tennessee. The project length is still under evaluation, but it currently represents a total investment of $31 million. The next project we'd like to highlight is the Rome-Cartersville Development Corridor. When completed, the project will provide 4 lanes of roadway. It's approximately 5.6 miles, and it represents a total construction cost of $134 million. So this project proposes to provide a connection between US 411 and I-75 in Bartow County, and the project will allow for a more direct route of US 411 that will reduce traffic through State Route 140 and US 41 corridors, and will accommodate current and future demand in our increasing population and employment growth in Bartow and Floyd counties. In addition to congestion relief, the project is anticipated to increase connectivity between Rome and the I-75 corridor and help improve local access to support economic development. Some other projects of interest. This is in Rockdale County, and the project proposes to reconstruct the interchange at I-20 and State Route 138 in Rockdale County. Yeah. It's a project length of 2 miles, and it represents a total investment of $73,855,000. And I did want to highlight that we are proposing a SPUI there. I had never heard of a SPUI, but it's a single point urban interchange. Pretty exciting. It won't be.
All right. So a SPUI is the highest functioning type of interchange you can have. It's similar to a divergent diamond in that you pass each other on the left instead of the right. So up at the Buckhead Loop on 400 is a SPUI. There's one at Tilly Mill and Peachtree Industrial. But basically the ramps all can go at the same time, and you don't have to have left turn signals like you do at a traditional diamond interchange. So it is the most efficient interchange design there is. So what is the Camp Creek Parkway 285? It's a divergent diamond interchange. Learn it, or a DDI. So the next party you guys can DDI or SPUI or, you know.
Yeah, you know the lingo. All right, the next project that we'd like to share is State Route 9. The project proposes to widen State Route 9 from 2 to 4 lanes from Wynwood Parkway to the Forsyth County line. It's approximately 3 miles long, and it represents a total investment of $51 million. And next, this project is in Rabun County. It proposes to widen State Route 15 and US 441 from 2 to 4 lanes from north of the city limits of Clayton to the North Carolina line. It's 7.4 miles and represents a total investment of $114 million. And this project is in Forsyth County. The project proposes to widen State Route 371 from 2 to 4 lanes from State Route 9 to Kelly Mill Road. It's 3.64 miles long, and it represents a total investment of $62 million. And those are all the projects for Districts 1, 6, and 7. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll tell you what. Okay, we have a number. Thank you. Very well done, especially when you're delivering good news like that. That's a lot of good news.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Please, yeah. If you wouldn't mind, would you be available for a question? Sorry about that. I should have called it.
I'm just curious, on some of those projects you said 1 mile at $70 million and 2 miles at $50 million. What are the biggest factors? I'm assuming right-of-way would be a big factor. What are some of the other factors that make the cost per mile so dramatically different on, like, Highway 20 specifically?
A lot of times it's also, like you said, the right-of-way, but also earthwork. If it's in the mountains, it depends on the terrain, as well as the complexity of the design that's required. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely utilities. Yeah, if we have to relocate different utilities. You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you. Oh, sorry, Mr. Bowen.
I'd just be interested with the time frame. Is this an average time frame of 3 to 5 years or 6 years? Or is there a time frame on all this?
For construction?
Uh-huh.
That's generally the time frame 2 to 6 years. It depends on the complexity of the project.
Yeah,
as well.
and so most of these are expected to let within the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay.
There's about 1 or 2 of these that you'll see that are projected out around 7 years, like the last phase of a corridor, something like that. But all of these are active projects that we have either in preliminary engineering or in right-of-way acquisition right now.
Good. All right, thank you. And next, Ms. Brown. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chandria Brown. I am one of the assistant office heads in the Office of Program Delivery for Districts 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the Bridge Project Management Contract. So, again, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, and members of the board. Today, I will be going over a few of the corridor projects and some major projects in Districts 2, 3, 4, and 5. First corridor is the Sunbelt Parkway corridor, also known as State Route 133. It is a Governor's Road Improvement Program project corridor, commonly referred to as GRIP. GRIP is a system of proposed economic developmental highways in Georgia. GRIP was adopted in 1989 by the Georgia General Assembly. SR 133 corridor extends from Albany and Dougherty County to Valdosta in Lowndes County. It's a freight corridor. It was completed. The completed projects along the corridor would be 4 lanes. The current estimated cost to complete the active projects is $245 million. This is a picture of the corridor. It runs pretty much in the southwest quadrant of the state. First project that I will highlight here is State Route 133 widening from south of State Route 35, US 319 to County Road 187, Mike Horn Road. It is 8.3 miles in length. The project led to construction in November of 2020. It's under construction and estimated completion date of July of 2023. It's a total investment of $87 million. Next project in Colquitt County. This project was widening of 133 from north of Colquitt County line to north of State Route 112. It has a 32-foot depressed median, project length of 7.55 miles. It's a management let date of November of 2021. It currently is scheduled to go to the shelf, but it has a proposed program year of 2023, so it won't be there very long. Total cost of $49 million. Yes, sir.
We'll make sure the slide's correct. I think this one may have split congressional districts, but we'll make sure.
Yeah.
We'll give proper credit where credit's due.
All of us in a second.
Okay.
Yeah, daughter and Worth counties. This next one is State Route 133. It has a 32-foot depressed median. It widens 133 from north of 112 to County Line Road, 3.47 miles in length. It has a management let date of July of 2021. The final plans have been submitted to bidding. Total cost is $37 million. Next project, State Route 133, widens from north of County Line Road. This is in Dougherty County, by the way, to north of County Road 540, Holly Drive. It's project length of 8.11 miles. Management let date of August of 2021. The final plans are due to bidding June 11th. It's an investment of $71 million. Next corridor that I'll highlight is US 441. It is the longest corridor in the state, of 371 miles. It's also a GRIP corridor and a freight corridor. Active projects total 54.7 miles in length, and the current estimated cost for the active projects are about $460 million. It's a picture of 441. It goes from the northern Georgia border to the southern Georgia border. First project I'll highlight along 441, proposed the widening of State Route 441, obviously from just north of State Route 46 to David Mullis Road. The existing roadway is proposed to widen to a 4-lane divided highway with a combination of a 32-foot depressed median and a 24-foot raised median. Project length is 8.3 miles. Management right-of-way date is April of 2023. Management let date July of 2025. It's a total investment of $73 million. Next project here is actually a project that's on the shelf. It's proposed the widening of US 441 from south of State Route 117 to I-16. The existing roadway is proposed to widen to a 4-lane roadway with a 24-foot raised median. It is 4.8 miles in length. Actual acquisitions have been completed. Like I said, it's placed on the shelf in November of 2020 and is currently waiting on construction funding. It's a total cost of $39 million. All right, this project is proposed to widen, this next project proposed to widen 441 and reconstruct it from just north of Appalanche River to Astondale Road. We're actually in the process of trying to update the description in Oconee County. The project goes through the town of Farmington and ends just inside the southern city limits of Bishop, the city of Bishop. The project has a total length of 6.4 miles. The existing roadway is proposed to be widened 4 lanes with a 24-foot wide raised median. The management right-of-way date is February of 2021, so the right-of-way plans are approved. However, we are waiting on right-of-way funding, and depending on when we get the right-of-way funding, the management let date will probably change from May of 2023. The total cost of this investment is $40 million. Next project. Proposed to widen US 441 from the Eagleton bypass to the Morgan County line. The existing roadway is proposed to be widened with a 32-foot wide depressed grass median. It is 9.2 miles in length. It's a management let date of December of 2021. Right-of-way acquisitions are in progress. The total cost is $68 million. Next 441 project is the widening from Putnam County line to north of Pierce Derry Road. The existing roadway is proposed to widen to a 4-lane divided roadway with a combination of a 14-foot flush and a 32-foot depressed grass median. The project length is 8.1 miles. The project actually was let December of 2020. It's currently under construction with an estimated completion date of March of 2024. The total investment on this one was about $58 million. Next project on 441, proposed the widening of 441 from Madison bypass to north of Appalanche River in Oconee County. The existing roadway is proposed to be widened to a 4-lane divided roadway with a 32-foot depressed median. Project length 8.5 miles. Management right-of-way was actually February 2021. The right-of-way plans are approved. We are waiting on FY22 right-of-way funds. Management let date would be May of 2023. This is a $67 million investment. Next corridor is US 1, State Route 4. It's also a GRIP corridor. The active project's length is about 45 miles. It's a freight corridor, 4 lanes of roadway, and it is $371 million of investment worth of active projects currently. And this is a picture of the State Route 4, State Route 17, US 1 location, extending north and south on the east side of the state. Okay. Next project along this corridor in US 1 is the widening along US 1 from north of Nimrod Road to Louisville bypass. Is 4 lanes, 12-foot lanes with a 44-foot depressed grass median. It is 5.91 miles in length, and the project is currently being advertised for bids this month, so it has a May 2021 letting. $47 million investment. Next project follows that last one. We'll widen State Route 4 US 1 from north of Nimrod Road to Clarks Mill Road. Provides 4 12-foot lanes with a 14-foot flush median throughout. It's a project length of 2.84 miles. This project let in September 2019. Is currently under construction with an estimated completion date of September 2022. Total cost is about $28 million. Next project also in Jefferson County, it's a widening of State Route 4 from Louisville bypass to Mennonite Church Road. It will provide 4 12-foot lanes with a combination of a 14-foot flush and a 44-foot depressed median. The project length is 5.8 miles. This project let in April of 2021. It is proceeding to construction. The total cost of this investment is about $37 million. All right, and the last one in Jefferson County will widen State Route 4 US 1 from Mennonite Church Road to State Route 40. It provides 12-foot lanes with a 44-foot depressed median, 6.5 miles long. The project is currently being advertised for bids and scheduled to let this month. Total investment of about $43 million. Next set of US 1 projects are in Toombs County, Congressional District 12. This first one will widen US 1 from south of George Hill Road to State Route 29. That's 4 12-foot lanes with a 32-foot depressed grass median, 3.6 miles in length. This project led to construction October of 2020 and is currently under construction. An estimated completion date of October of 2022. Total cost would be about $25 million. Next one in Toombs County. This project will widen US 1 from State Route 29 to Green Oak Road. Also 4 12-foot lanes with a 32-foot depressed median. Project length is 3.6 miles. This project led last year, also June 2020, and is currently under construction with an estimated completion date of February of 2023. Total cost is $36 million. Two more in Toombs. Next one widens US 1 from south of Green Oak Road to Resmondo Road. It has 4 12-foot lanes with a 32-foot depressed grass median, 7.7 miles in length. Management let date is June of 2022. Acquisitions are currently underway. We will continue to work on it until we have to put it on the shelf. Construction funds are currently in FY 27. The total cost of this investment is $74 million. And let's see. And this last one in Toombs is widening from State Route 147 to south of George Hill Road. It will provide 4 12-foot lanes with 32-foot depressed grass median. It's 8.5 miles in length. The project was let April of 2020. It's currently under construction with an estimated completion date of October of 2022. The total cost of this investment is $81 million. And then now I'm going to highlight some projects of interest. First project in Congressional Districts 5 and 13 is the widening of State Route 42 from 2 to 4 lanes from south of State Route 138 in Henry County to I-675 in Clayton. It's got a typical section of 4 11 or 12-foot lanes, 20-foot raised median with 5-foot sidewalk and a 10-foot path. The project length is 2.6 miles. It's scheduled to let January 2022. Right-of-way acquisitions are in progress. Total investment of about $48 million. Next project is Brampton Road, Congressional District 1. This project will connect Brampton Road to Georgia Ports Authority Gate 2 and Foundation Drive to SR 25, SR 21, and US 80. This project will provide direct access to the interstate system for the heavy commercial truck traffic related to the intermodal terminal transfers and will improve the efficiency of the transfer of goods between the port, rail, and interstate highway system. It's about 0.3 miles in length. It is letting this month. It's currently advertised for bids. It is a $91 million investment. Next project in Congressional District 1 is Effingham County Parkway. This project proposed a new roadway to provide access to undeveloped lane and also help sustain industrial and commercial development in this area. The project will begin at SR 30, approximately 1.5 miles west of SR 21, and terminate at Blue Jay Road. The typical section consists of 2 12-foot lanes with a 10-foot outside shoulder. Project length 6.5 miles. This project is also a part of the May 2021 letting. It's currently being advertised for bids. The total investment is about $58 million. Next project, Congressional District 3, is the LaGrange Bypass. This project proposed a new location roadway from Youngs Mill Road to State Route 1, US 27. This will help alleviate some of the downtown LaGrange truck traffic by providing this access, this new roadway location. It's about 2 miles in length. Management right-of-way is currently May of 2021. However, we are working on a schedule revision because of some phase 2 archaeology that needs to be completed. So the current management let date of October 2022 is likely to change. The total investment for this project is about $25 million. Next three projects are I-75 Phase 2, interchange reconstructions in Lowndes County, Congressional District 8. This first one proposed to reconstruct the interchange at I-75 Lake Park Belleville Road. The project length is 0.6 miles. This project was let to construction February of 2020 and is currently under construction with an estimated completion date of September of 2022. Total cost of this investment is $49 million. The next interchange here, this is exit 11. The last one was exit 2, by the way. This one's at exit 11, the reconstruction interchange at I-75 and State Route 31. Project length is 0.4 miles. The management let date is July of 2021. The final plans on this one have been turned in to bidding for advertisement. The total cost of this project is $41 million. And the last interchange in Lowndes County is exit 18. It's in conceptual development right now. This project length is about 0.4 miles. It's got a management let date of June of 2025 and a total investment of about $31 million. That's it right there. Got two more. This is the State Route 44 widening from Old Phoenix Road to Harmony Road to Athens Tech Drive, just north of I-20. It has an urban and a rural typical section, 16-foot raised median, and also a 32-foot raised median. And there's a portion that also has a 20-foot raised median. The project length is 10.7 miles. Has a management let date of March of 2023. However, we are working on a schedule revision that might push that to January of 24. The total investment of this is about $111 million. And last but not least is the I-75-16 projects. This basically reconstructs the interchange at I-16 and I-75. It's a total project length of about 8.07 miles, about 5 miles on I-75 and 2.5 miles on I-16, and then a little bit, about half a mile of work on a ramp that connects the two of those together. The total investment of about $554 million. There are 6 phases. First 3 phases let in 2017. Phase 4 and 5 let in January of this year, and phase 6 will let once phases 4 and 5 have been completed. So this includes the highlighted major projects in districts 2, 3, and 4, and 5. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Brown. That was a lot of good and welcome information. Any member have a question of Ms. Brown?
Yes, sir.
I just have a comment. Just as soon as we turn Jeff loose on this committee, we go to spending about $50 billion.
You're welcome.
That needs to go into the record right
You're
there.
welcome.
Russell, I hope you've got some money for all this.
Let me add in, Chandra used a term, putting things on the shelf or shelf, and if you're wanting to know what that means, it means that the projects, whatever the phase may be, either the right-of-way or the construction, is the project readiness is ahead of the funding. So where our goal is to always try to advance projects and always bring the funding in as projects get to be ready. So that's always a balancing act, working with our planning division, with Janine and her team, because as you can see, I just want to thank Crystal and Chandra for going through, these are the major projects. This is not all the projects, but these are the major corridor projects, generally outside of interstate widening or corridors or MMIP. I mean, there were some interstate projects that happened to be in Tim Golden's district about the time he walked in, so I figured he just left those projects to come to this meeting, but those are a lot. I mean, Mr. Jerry, to your point is, you can see that the cost, and Kevin's to your point of a lot of these projects, the right-of-way costs may outweigh the construction cost or very equivalent, and depends on where you are in the state. And I think you could see that with when you heard the dollars per mile and how it varied wildly across the state. It really, right-of-way costs can be equal or greater than construction cost in and around Metro Atlanta. So, you know, I think as all of you saw, all your districts involved here, there was some pretty big cost swings, but, you know, that's the cost of doing business for advancing transportation around the state. But, yep, always, as you heard, there's always projects to do with their money, if the money's there to do it. And that's, again, part of y'all's work and working with planning and getting these priorities lined up. So Jeff,
You're welcome.
congratulations.
Well, thanks for that explanation, Commissioner. Any other questions or comments from members of the board? If not, this committee hearing is adjourned. Thank you for that presentation.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Yes, I'm here today to request this committee to approve the bond resolution for $112,500,000 in general obligation bonds. And so it has to have that approved and recommended to the full board tomorrow to approve it. Those bonds, I think Angela had given a presentation last month in her finance report on what these projects are, but I'll just give you a real quick recap. It includes money for 12 bridge replacement projects. Ooh, oops, I got slides, I forgot. So that's the introduction part. And here's the location of the bridge replacement projects and also 4 capital road projects. Those bridge replacements are in Evans County, Webster, Fayette, Sumter, Spalding, 2 in Madison County, Macon, Chattooga, Elbert, Floyd, and Jefferson. So they're pretty widely spread around the state. And then the 4 capital road projects are in Forsyth, Henry, Washington, and Troup counties. In addition to these projects, there is some rail refurbishment, some upgrading of rail to Class 2 standards, and those are the Heart of Georgia Railroad, Southwestern Georgia Georgia Southwestern Railroad, and the Chattooga and Chickamauga Railroad. So it kind of gives you an idea that the work's spread around the state. Again, it's $112,500,000 general obligation bonds, and it does require an approval of this committee to send it to the full board tomorrow for approval. So I guess I would ask for a motion to do that.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second. A motion second on voting. Well, only you got to be on the committee.
I'm not.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, motion second. Any discussion? Okay. I ask for the vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Which includes my presentation.
Thank you, Matt. That's my report.
No, that's not.
But one of the things in Forsyth County City. Which one? I think it's Forsyth County, and I didn't do in let in that bond. Oh no, I didn't see it.
I want to call the Equal Access Committee meeting to order, and thank you all for being here. And we'd like for Ms. Kimberly King to come forward, and EEO Director, to give a presentation on diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Commissioner, thank you. I am, as Mr. Brown indicated, here to provide you some information as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and to tell you a little bit about what it looks like here at the Georgia Department of Transportation. So we are building our diversity curriculum. I've waffled a little bit and I've called it a curriculum, I've called it a program, I've called it a platform, but the important thing for you to understand is that we are steadily working on naming this activity. That it is not new activity. It has long existed at GDOT, but as is the case with so many things, we're just busy doing the work every day, and so we don't always stop to label the work as diversity, equity, or inclusion or elsewhere. And so we want to be really deliberate in how we identify this activity. So I will say to you that this is not a new conversation. We really started last year when there was a national conversation going on in the country about equity and justice. And we recognized that that conversation was going to have some impact within the agency, that our employees, that our constituencies were listening to those conversations. They understood that those conversations were happening, and the commissioner was well aware that we needed to make clear to our staff that GDOT was a place that recognized that conversation was happening, that understood the importance of that conversation. And as I indicated, it being a national conversation, our National Association of State Transportation and Highway Officials recognized the importance of that conversation. And our regional body recognized the import of that conversation. So both AASHTO and SASHTO began working on resolutions that offered a statement, a vision from the transportation perspective of what we were talking about. We talked about equity and justice. So just in part, those resolutions provided language that recognized the core of the American dream as promising freedom and equality and opportunity of prosperity for all people without regard to protected class. Those resolutions recognize that as policymakers and leaders, we are responsible for listening, for learning, for taking action relative to those conversations about equity and opportunity for all. That it is our responsibility to continuously enhance and offer courageous opportunity for conversation within our agencies, to say to our staff that there are no obstructions to your growth and development at this agency, because we are looking for, if they exist, and dismantling any systems of inequity that may be present, because we want to make sure that opportunity is being fairly and fully provided. And so it's our role as transportation leaders to serve as stewards of multimodal transportation systems that achieve economic, environmental, and social goals set for and by the people that we serve. So why are we doing this now? Well, again, this is not a new conversation. We are building up on a platform that we started last year. Once we introduced that national conversation into the agency, we began with anti-bias training for all of our executive level staff and for their staff. And from that bias training, we grew into recognition that this curriculum really needed to be multifaceted, really needed to be developed so that there were pieces of it that sought to speak to the entirety of the organization. But again, this has always existed at GDOT. It exists in our recruitment activities. It exists in our affirmative action planning. It exists in our interview and selection process, our hiring and promotional processes, our ADA, our Title VI, and our disadvantaged business enterprise programs. So diversity, equity, and inclusion has always been a part of the fabric of the work that we do at GDOT, but this is really about us being intentional and deliberate in identifying activity that is supportive of each of these programs. So how do we begin? Well, we begin with a message from our leadership. The intention is to have the commissioner create a message that will be posted on our website that talks about diversity, equity, and inclusion at GDOT. What that does is offer both to our employees and the public a very clear understanding of, one, our value of diversity, equity, and inclusion at GDOT, but also our recognition of the need to publicly communicate the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion at GDOT. What else do we do? Well, we need to recognize that that statement standing alone is not sufficient. What that statement does is introduce to our constituencies, to the public, to our staff, that we recognize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But what it also does for us is really give us an opportunity to say, we recognize that our own experience is limited. Our own perspective is limited. So if we are to work with our group, if we are to recognize the benefit of the whole, as opposed to the limited perspective of one, we gain a better understanding. We recognize that the gifts that make each of us unique is in recognition of our strengths and our talents. We identify the diversity that exists in our workplace, and we make clear that we understand the value that each of those unique perspectives brings to our agency. We recognize that our collective abilities are greater than is our single vision. And we know and understand that when we share our gifts, we make a better team. And that team is able to be creative, innovative, and diligent in the delivery of excellent service to our clients, both internally and externally. So what does diversity look like at GDOT? Here on your left, you'll see diversity in terms of our Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, in the workshops that we offer, in the support and assistance that we provide to those disadvantaged business enterprises and the small businesses with whom we operate. Here in that middle picture, you see what it looks like on our work sites, that we are making sure that opportunity is being provided fairly out in the construction world. Here on your far right, you see this young lady is actually someone that is a GDOT employee that has the opportunity to be here in that work site doing the job that she does because we had that recognition of diversity, equity, and inclusion, both at the recruitment level and within the organization in terms of hiring and promotion. So we are cognizant of how diversity, equity, and inclusion must look at the Georgia Department of Transportation. Here again is another example of diversity, equity, and inclusion at GDOT on a work site. These are some of the projects that we talked about when program delivery was offering you information. These are employees at our agency. These are faces of diversity, equity, and inclusion at the Georgia Department of Transportation. And I don't mean to indicate to you that those faces of diversity are just about a single element of diversity. Diversity goes beyond race, diversity goes beyond gender, diversity goes beyond age. It's about geography. It's about tenure in the workplace. It's about expertise and skill sets. It's about background. It's about knowledge and experience. And it's about how we can collectively support one another as a whole. But again, we just wanted to offer you some indication of how valuable diversity, equity, and inclusion is at GDOT and how we understand the value of diversity, equity, and inclusion here. So what are we going to do? We are going to, again, build upon the resolutions that were provided to us by our leadership at AASHTO and SASHTO. We're going to create that recorded statement from our leadership. We're going to post that statement. We're going to ensure employee engagement in diversity, equity, and inclusion activity by making sure that the employees have a room to have that conversation, that the environment exists for them to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're going to do that with cohort leadership activity. We're going to do that with talent development activity. We're going to do that with survey activity. We're going to do that with peer mentoring activity. We're going to do that with data collection. We're going to use our own data to identify where we're doing a great job in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion, where we can do a better job in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that data allows us to be accountable to you and to our staff. That data demonstrates that we are aware of accountability and we are engaged in making sure that that accountability is happening, and that you as our leadership and as our employees can to that accountability and that awareness that we are creating. So in terms of making sure diversity, equity, and inclusion is happening all over the agency, what else are we doing? Well, we are also doing what we call professional services goal setting engagement. So you are aware that we are consistently setting goals, project-specific goals, on our construction activity. But what we don't do is set those same kind of very deliberate goals, in our professional services activity. And we don't do that as often because it's just a little more complex, frankly, to go about goal setting on our professional services engagements. Because those professional services engagements don't have what our construction activity has in terms of those engineers' estimates that set out with a great deal of specificity a series of line item activities that we're able to count in terms of construction. So the design element of a project is a little more complex, so it makes it a little more difficult for us to attach a goal. So what we're going to do is where there are task orders specifically for some of those projects, we can attach goals there. But where there is more specific and complex activity, what we're going to do is allow those prime contractors to really talk to us about how they can engage disadvantaged business enterprise, and we're going to score those prime contractors in terms of that explanation. So how robust are you? How far considered are you in terms of your utilization of disadvantaged business enterprises in the design element of these projects? Really show us in terms of the professional services engagement that you can have the same kind of activity that you have on the construction side in terms of thinking about where DBE can be utilized, in terms of thinking about where that participation can happen, in terms of thinking about the sort of diversity that can exist on a project that will allow for participation in the professional services space to be provided to disadvantaged business enterprises. This gives us an opportunity to really monitor and mark how those professional services firms are being utilized and really help to grow and develop those firms. So that is another example sort of how we're always deliberately thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion at GDOT. And I will say, because the commissioner certainly has tasked us more than once with really being all about creating a culture of innovation and collaboration, that this is both of those things. This is both innovative and collaborative because we couldn't do this in a vacuum. Civil rights doesn't exist in a vacuum. I've worked with Albert staff in program delivery. I've worked with Treasury staff in procurement to think about how we go about making sure that this professional services engagement is viable, that this is something that we are able to do, that it's something the industry will support and work with us on. And so we have relied upon those existing relationships in that consultant community and made them aware of the expectation relative to this professional services engagement, and they are on board. So we're excited about what this can look like. I will tell you that it's not going to be attached to any of the lettings that are out now, but it is coming. So we'll have a meeting in June with our consultant committee to make sure that they are aware of our expectations and what we're going to do very specifically. And then we can begin attaching these professional services considerations to those project activities. So we are excited about it, and I will say that this is a relatively new kind of activity. We are one of a very few state agencies that's engaging in this professional services goal setting, again, because it's just not as easily done as it is on the construction side. So we're excited about it. We're excited about getting it started. We're excited about rolling it out. We're excited about seeing the difference it can make for those disadvantaged business enterprises that operate on the professional services side of the house. So diversity, equity, and inclusion, I will end where I began, is alive and well at GDOT. It has been alive and well at GDOT. It will continue to be alive and well at GDOT, and we will communicate to you very deliberately and intentionally how we are naming that activity, working that activity, and providing participation both internally and externally at the Georgia Department of Transportation. Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. We got 10 minutes.
getting back to used to how we do things. It's been a while, so we're glad to be together today. And I want to again welcome Russ Garricker and Greg Morris on our board, and we look forward to working with you in weeks and years to come. So it's exciting to have you on our board. I want you to know that. Would y'all like to say anything of any interest? Great, we are you too. We've been thinking about you, and we're certainly excited about it. At this time, the committee as a whole will come to order, and Scott Higley. Scott's been a while since I've seen you. I haven't seen what you look like.
Well, and I answer to anything, so not
a lot of us. It's great to have you with us today.
Thank you very much.
And you're going to give us a communication update.
I am, as a matter of fact, and thank you very much for the introduction. And Commissioner, members of the board, it's a real pleasure to be back in front of you again as we approach something that looks and feels a lot more like normal. Really excited to be in front of you and excited to be back to Wednesday afternoon meetings again. That's really nice, isn't it? Just want to give you a communications update for strategic communications for the Georgia Department of Transportation. First of all, I always like to introduce you to the members of our team. We are a very diverse team, and what you see here on the screen is a rare sight because we're never all together in the same place. These folks are deployed all across the state in communications roles. Some work here in this building, and some work in district offices statewide. This is a really talented and dedicated group of folks. Those of you who work closely with the members of the communications team already know that. We represent just about 0.004% of the workforce of GDOT, but we like to think we have a bigger impact than that. We've got a lot of long-timers, and we have some new hires as well. Our longest term of service among this group is 23 years, and our shortest is 3 days. Among this group, we have several former journalists. We've got a video shooter and producer who came to us from TV news. We've got several marketing gurus. We have a former communications pro from the Minnesota DOT. A couple of folks from the hospitality and the attractions community. We got a former cheerleader from the Atlanta Hawks and the Falcons, and several who've done hard time in the Senate press office. So lots of talent and lots of dedication here among this team. It's a real pleasure to work with this group, and part of the reason why I like you to see their faces is they're really doing the hard work every single day, and those of you who work with them know that. So now we operate under what I refer to as kind of our 7 key operating principles. We advocate for positive change in Georgia. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. We innovate and collaborate with and alongside many of you and our GDOT colleagues and our partners. We anticipate the problems, and we try to get ahead of them. We celebrate the wins when they come. We educate the public on all sorts of transportation issues and matters. And then at the end, we evaluate and we try to measure and do better where we can. We base everything we do around the transparency and openness, which is the hallmark of this agency. We are a font of information, and we try to share that information as best we can at just about every opportunity. And it really breaks down into 2 tiers. The first is the basics, the things that we have to do, and we would count construction alerts and traffic updates, producing department publications like the Milepost Magazine or the Accountability and Investment Report, responding to media inquiries and serving as spokespeople on behalf of the department. Providing basic customer service, of course, is a big part of what we do. Crisis communications, when that's called for. We maintain the website, which is a key communications tool for us. And then we service the needs of a lot of our internal clients here from leadership on down. Now, the next layer of that is what makes it strategic communications. It's protecting and enhancing the GDOT brand when we can. So among the things that we do under that banner is we provide strategic advice and counsel on department programs and initiatives. We write speeches. We help put together presentations when we can. We positively position the department in the minds of our constituents, and that's very important. We created a complete branding package, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but we work really hard to look and act and sound like a popular consumer brand, because those are the brands that people respond to, the brands that they build relationships with. We work really hard to exceed our expectations, and we distribute more information. We share, we're transparent, we're open, but above all else, we work really hard to be thoughtful and strategic. Now, certainly 2020 threw us a real loop, but because GDOT and the essential public services we provide never stopped, we had an obligation to continually update the public on what was going on with GDOT, which includes updates about the projects that we're working on, the impacts to traffic, and other kind of need-to-know information. We did go a little quiet during the early days of the pandemic, and that was by design, because we did not want to attempt to look self-aggrandizing. We did not want to attempt to take up any of the media bandwidth that was more desperately needed by public health workers and agencies, by first responders that were responding to the needs of the pandemic and sharing information. So that was all by design. Mostly we didn't want to seem tone deaf with what was going on in the world. But as time wore on and as GDOT continued that essential work, we realized it became more essential. Telling the story about working with GMA to help set up mass vaccination sites, for example, was one story that we were able to tell. I'm very proud of that. And as always, we're always very proud to tell the stories about the great work that our colleagues are doing. So everyone knows that the GDOT that we work at today is not the GDOT of yesteryear. And so to help reflect this, back in 2018, we introduced a completely new visual identity system and new communication standards that went along with that. Now, the reason I highlight this again today is because our brand is very foundational. Everything we do and communicate around is based on the elements of our brand. So it's very important and it's worth revisiting. We embarked on this project to visually showcase GDOT's new brand direction at the time, a very consumer-focused, very responsive, very innovative, very accessible and transparent agency, and we wanted to look and sound that way. At the time, we modernized the brand's presence from a visual, verbal, and written communications perspective, all very important. And that was in an effort to deepen the brand recognition and the brand affinity among the people that we serve. That new visual identity is served by, as you know, the new logo palette, the blue and the green. We've all become very familiar with, and it represents a really strong and solid yet approachable image. Reflects a streamlined organization in service to the state of Georgia. It also incorporates what we refer to as the focus icon, which is based on our core values, and it also provides us a quick visual identity, not unlike some of those that you see in popular consumer brands, as I mentioned. And I think we've done a nice job over the past 3 years of really cementing that look in the minds of the people that we serve. So in terms of the implementation of the brand, as you know, that brand look and feel is implemented across just about everything we produce and everything we put out from a communications perspective. And it adheres to a set of standards and guidelines that we introduced back in July of 2018 when we introduced the new visual identity system. Now, consistency is really important to successful branding, and that's why everything kind of looks like everything. Even the slides that you see presented here today really adhere to the brand that we established 3 years ago. Now, another reason why it's important to revisit the foundation that we've built with the GDOT brand is some of the work we've done with our internal clients. Now, servicing internal clients and the other offices and divisions of GDOT is a big part of what we do. In many ways, we view the Office of Communications as a marketing and communications agency, which is in service to those other offices and individuals. So we put a lot of emphasis on this. There's some various logo and brand designs you see here that we've done for other divisions over the past year. They include the new SIGOPS branding on the left for the Traffic Operations Division, and that's the new blanket program that incorporates the old RTOP and RTSO platforms. Also, the updated designs for 511 Georgia and Navigator. Now, I'd like you to note how they are personalized to the state of Georgia. That wasn't the case before, and they also reflect our brand standards and guidelines. And I want to point out to those of you who were familiar with the old 511 logo, we have eliminated the old telephone handset, this thing, from the logo, because a lot of young people have absolutely no idea what this thing is or what it does. So it was increasingly less relevant over time. So we set that aside in favor of a new custom look for Georgia. Now, also note the branding for Let's Ride. That's the new marketing platform. Excuse me, we've been working with the Intermodal Division on for a year. It's beginning to roll out across the state, and you'll hear more about that from the Commissioner tomorrow. Now, you hear me talk a lot about telling our story. Well, how do we go about doing that? One of the key ways we do is through the publications that we produce. Now, we often think about publications as something we can hold, right? Something that's in our hands. Not always the case. Increasingly over the past year, because of COVID, and if there's anything positive that's come out of COVID, I would say this might be it. Increasingly, we're putting our publications online, which makes them infinitely more accessible to the public that we serve. We're seeing far more readers of the milepost, for example, than we used to through the printed publication. We still produce those publications, but COVID really limited our ability to be able to distribute them in person. So it was important to figure out how to get them in the hands and in front of the eyeballs of the people that we serve, and the way we do that is online. And we do a variety of publications, as you can see from the slide here. It's a big part of telling our story. Now, traditional media, digital media, social media, all forms of media. Traditional media will always be important to us, and by that I mean newspapers, television, radio. It's a big part of what we do and how we get the word out. But increasingly, digital and social media channels are the way that we get to tell our story the way that we want to tell it. And a lot of those channels are low cost to free to be able to use, which is very important. One of the things that I want to talk about here is our partnership with the Georgia Association of Broadcasters. It's a member-based organization. You've heard me mention it before. It represents about 500 member TV and radio stations across the state of Georgia. So several years ago, we formed a strategic partnership with the GAB. They really help disseminate the information we're putting out there. And they get that information to the TV stations, the radio stations across Georgia. And man, it has become a big part of what we do and how we do it successfully. So we reach the listeners and the viewers of those stations in ways that we couldn't do on our own. So we're grateful to the GAB for that partnership. Now, social media, obviously increasingly important over time. 10 years ago, I don't know that I would have said that. 15 years ago, it practically didn't exist. Increasingly, this is a way that we have a two-way dialogue with the people that we serve. Conversations take place in social media that really couldn't take place in any other forum. And so it's a big part of our customer service effort now and moving forward. This slide demonstrates the steady growth over time in terms of the fans and followers on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, but a growing channel for us too is also LinkedIn. For those of you who are on LinkedIn, we're communicating increasingly more effectively to a primarily industry audience on LinkedIn. And we're even propagating and advertising our board meetings on LinkedIn. So we're getting a lot of viewership to our virtual channel that way for the board meetings. In terms of digital media, about 3 years ago, we launched our blog called The Extra Mile. And my expectations for the blog in terms of exposure really didn't exist. I thought this is a very basic and kind of fundamental way that we can communicate by creating articles and content for a blog. And we thought, let's give it a try and see how it goes. The performance of this blog has just simply exceeded any expectations I could have had. To date, we have posted well over 100 blogs, and the top 6 blog posts have generated about 8,000 views alone. Now, that's just for 6 blog posts. The top producing blog posts to date have generated over 3,000 shares to social media, and this is an important component of our blog. We do include buttons so that articles can be shared across different social media platforms, and as you can see, this is just one example. That particular article had been shared 347 times on social media. So obviously, we're putting out content that is valuable to people, that they think is valuable enough to share with their own networks. So it's become a really big part of our digital communications efforts. And for any of you who would like to author a blog post, we would be happy to work with you on that. Just let me know. Happy to put up an article for you. Now, part of strategy is also developing partnerships and relationships. I have always felt like PR didn't stand for public relations. I think it stands for personal relationships. That's a big part of our strategy as well. We work with traditional media reporters and journalists in a way that I like to think is very different than other public agencies. We really work hard to build relationships with those folks. We learn the kind of content that their stations and their publications and the online publications that they work for, the kind of content they're looking for, and then we try to tailor strategic pitches to fit those publications. So big part of what we do. And then there are times that we get to have some fun, more often than not. One of the examples I can think of over the course of the past year or so is in working with our traffic operations division in creating an Instagram contest where we actually asked our fans and followers to provide messages for our digital message signboards on the highways. And we encouraged humorous messages, but they all had to focus on some aspect of roadway safety. And so we chose the winners and we announced those winners and began using them on the digital signboards. Now, what took us by surprise, because we didn't really think of it in terms of a national media play, was that it caught the attention of national and international media and was profiled on ABC's Good Morning America and the Weather Channel and CNN. So a nice side effect, but it also shows that thinking in an unconventional way also opens new doors for us in terms of how we're communicating, not just with the public, but also with our media partners. Communications has played a big role in our virtual public involvement over the course of the past year, and you'll recall the commissioner several times has really profiled a lot of those efforts. We call it VPI. Traditionally, GDOT had relied almost solely on in-person meetings, PIOHs, to really convey this information on projects. And when COVID hit and we couldn't have those meetings anymore, we all had to quickly pivot and develop an acceptable online solution that met the standards of Federal Highway and all the other relevant agencies and organizations. And so working as a part of a strategic task group, which involved a number of other offices and people within GDOT, including Office of Environmental Services and others, we quickly were able to launch within a couple of months' time a virtual public involvement platform on what's called the ArcGIS Hub. It's mobile phone friendly. Oftentimes we'll feature a virtual public meeting room that actually mimics the look and feel of what used to take place in church basements and other things of that nature. And we will go back to in-person public meetings, but we do believe that our virtual public involvement will be with us over time. So really important part of what we're doing. I also think it reflects how a modern agency should operate. We should allow people to provide public comment and review this kind of content from the comfort of their own homes. To me, it just makes sense. We conduct motorist and pedestrian safety campaigns that I'm sure are very familiar to all of you. Drive Alert, Arrive Alive, and the Seen Be Seen campaigns. A big part of what we're doing in terms of ensuring that we are educating the public, back to those 7 key operating principles, that we're educating the public so that they can have the information they need to make smart choices to protect themselves and others when they're out walking on the roads or when they're out behind the wheel of a vehicle. And so that's a big part of our communications efforts as well. And we have formed some strategic partnerships, again, with traditional media partners like WSB-TV here in Atlanta. Fred Blankenship on Channel 2 has become a very ardent spokesperson on behalf of both campaigns here, and we're grateful for those efforts on his part. And then last year, when it became apparent that, based on the numbers we were seeing, that people were exceeding the speed limit in just crazy ways, and we were seeing rising fatalities again for the first time in several years, that something had to be done. And following a very robust conversation that took place at a board meeting last fall, the communications team got busy, and we quickly formed a partnership with the Governor's Office of Highway Safety and Georgia Highway Patrol. And we created a campaign to educate people that this is not going the right direction. And it's primarily because people are making very, very bad decisions on the roadways, and we need to correct that, and we need to correct it very quickly. So through an effort to communicate through our media partners and online, we created what I felt was a very impactful campaign to let people know that the numbers are definitely trending in the wrong direction. People are making bad choices, and to protect yourself and others, again, you need to start making the right choices. So we racked up some pretty impressive media numbers through that, all related to Drive Alert, Arrive Alive. So that was an effort I was very proud of, as was my team. We are ending year 2 of the 3-year partnership that we formed with the Scholastic organization. Now, for those of you that grew up in a classroom where you got the weekly reader, as I did back in the 1970s, Scholastic is the organization that produces those publications. They're known for their book fairs. But another thing that they do is they create classroom curriculum, which is then distributed to teachers all across the country. And so 2 years ago, we formed a partnership with Scholastic because the one piece of the puzzle that we were never able to crack with Drive Alert, Arrive Alive was how do we get it to kids before they actually get behind the wheel of a car? Now, apart from an occasional opportunity to address a classroom or an assembly at a grade school or a middle school, we never really could crack that code. Scholastic is a trusted partner that has been known for over 100 years in classrooms and by educators. So we worked with Scholastic to create a classroom curriculum that was all focused around safe driving, safe walking, safe bicycling. And that curriculum has been being taught now in some Georgia classrooms for a couple of years. I believe there are 8,000 middle school educators across the state. They are sent this information from Scholastic, which includes classroom posters and a teaching guide. And not every classroom obviously participates. They're not required to do that. But we've heard from many teachers that are grateful to get that kind of curriculum because I think it's important to be able to teach that in a classroom setting. It's been taught in person. It's been taught virtually over the course of the past year. And the commissioner will talk a little bit more about that tomorrow morning as well. But we're very proud of this effort, and we feel it's so important to reach 6th, 7th, and 8th graders again before they get behind the wheel of a car and form bad habits. Fighting human trafficking has become another advocacy campaign that the department has really focused on. And as you can see here, we've created posters On the back of the Milepost magazine that many of you may have picked up on the way in today, you see a big ad, Speak Up, Make a Difference. Basically, this campaign is working with the Grace Commission, the Georgia Grace Commission, and the Department of Administrative Services as a means of propagating this information, really educating people about what human trafficking looks like and not being afraid to report suspected incidents of human trafficking in Georgia. This is really what this is all about. You see stickers on the mirrors of every restroom and rest area and welcome centers all across the state. And sadly, human trafficking takes place on the nation's transportation network. Georgia's not exempt from that. And so it's very important to communicate with either individuals who may be being trafficked or individuals who see the possible trafficking right in front of them, give them the opportunity to be able to report those incidents so they can be checked out. And, you know, it's very important to the governor, it's very important to the First Lady, it's just the right thing to do, and so we're proud to support this effort as well. And we are grateful to the governor and First Lady Kemp for providing us with the platform and the opportunity to do that. Last fall, I'm very proud of this effort, we launched Keep It Clean Georgia, which is GDOT's anti-littering campaign. Now, I'm very careful to describe it as GDOT's campaign, and here's why. We didn't want this campaign to be solely owned by GDOT. We wanted this campaign to grow and propagate across the state. So as a means of doing that, we developed a series of strategic partnerships with many municipalities, other anti-littering organizations, so that the creative that we developed could be shared and propagated across all kinds of different networks, and I'll talk a little bit about that. Here you see some of the creative I introduced to you last fall, and that's been shared just in a huge way online and across all digital media channels. Our partners have really embraced this effort, and you see here some of the municipalities and localities that have signed on to become partners of Keep It Clean Georgia. Really, this campaign is designed to get people to make a smart choice, which is protect the natural and built beauty and environment of the state of Georgia, this place we're so proud to call home, by making the decision not to litter. It seems very easy, doesn't it? And yet, litter still happens on roadways. We're still trying to convince people to use their seatbelt. So part of the way we do this is, in the creative that you saw, and I want to go back here real quick, you don't see one piece of litter in this creative, do you? But what you do see is beautiful images of the state of Georgia combined with clever taglines. And the creative for this campaign was developed in the wake of the success that we had with the humorous digital highway sign messages, so we felt like it gave us a little bit of license to be able to be creative and fun. It's also one of the things that we found has really opened doors in terms of building relationships. Humor sells online. People want to share funny, creative messages online on their social media channels. And so it seems to be working. For Earth Day, we created a new toolkit with some freshened up creative, and we shared this with all of our partners. And what we saw was that they were very eager and willing to use some of this new creative that we developed just in time for Earth Day, and they're using it even more so online now on their social media channels. I'll give you a second just to absorb. From Tybee to Thomaston, don't trash this view. That's indicative of our desire to show that this is a statewide campaign. It's not focused on one area of the state. Don't be a chump, take it to the dump. So again, humor, something that's really served us well. We've created a 30-second public service announcement. We did this work in-house. I'm very proud of this effort because we reached out to some of the tourism bureaus, Visit Savannah, Visit Macon, Visit Athens, and we asked them if we could use some of their creative in their B-roll because they have very, very high quality video product that we thought we could use to create a new spot proprietary to this campaign. And I'd like to show that to you now. Might need to adjust the volume. Here, let's go back a slide and I'll tell you. Talk briefly about this and maybe we can adjust the volume while we do that. So co-branded social media with our Adopt a Highway partner. Now this is the partner that recruits high-level partnerships to help support our anti-littering efforts. And we felt like this was a natural partnership with this organization. I've always described Keep It Clean Georgia as an effort to keep people from littering. Our Adopt a Highway partner comes into play when people do litter and we have the need to pick that litter up. So this is some social media that we've adopted and putting out there. Okay, let's try that video again.
From Atlanta's historic River Street to the rivers of Columbus. Whether you're cheering on the Bulldogs in Athens or the Yellow Jackets in Atlanta, all over this great state, from the mountains to the coast. Remember, we don't litter here. Keep it clean.
Lost the audio on that last part, but we say that this campaign is brought to you by the Georgia Department of Transportation and by anti-litter advocates everywhere in Georgia. So that brings together that vast partnership of resources that we have built among our partners. Really proud of that spot, and that will be distributed. You heard me talk about our partnership with the Georgia Association of Broadcasters, so that spot will begin airing this week on TV stations all across the state. So very excited about that because that'll be a big way that will help us spread the word not to litter. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would be happy to take any questions or comments.
Anybody have any questions from Scott?
Scott, I just want to make a comment. I drive the I-75 corridor 6 to 10 times a year. And it is nice every now and then to look up and see something kind of funny on the board because it's a long, boring drive. And I've often wondered, well, who do I thank? You know, like, I wish all of them had something funny, but I did want to compliment you guys on that.
We thank you, Mr. Sheridan. We hear comments like that from our constituents a lot. And one of the things that we find is why we don't want people to take out their phone and snap a photograph of a sign while they're driving. We hope they were in the passenger seats. We do see images of our signs that pop up on social media, and frequently they tag us, so we get to see that. So that really tells us that those messages for different reasons are resonating. And humor really does tend to cut through the clutter. And I want to for sure give a call out for that program in particular to our colleagues in traffic operations who were so willing and excited to work with us on that campaign.
Jeff. Thank you, Scott, for that presentation. I want to dial in and really compliment you on the human trafficking aspect of your presentation. That's a issue that's very important to my wife, Kim, and myself. And to that end, in addition to the awareness part of that, is there any type of measurables on that you can see some actual results from, perhaps, and to how effective that campaign may be, and if it's in a positive direction?
It's a very good question, Mr. Lewis. Thank you. And you know, one of the challenges that we often face in terms of measuring the effectiveness of our communications is how many people are you really touching? And what we can share and compile, and what I look forward to sharing in a future presentation, would be the numbers of people we know have seen those, for example, those stickers in the restrooms, because we can pretty carefully or closely estimate how many people are visiting those rest area restrooms. So you cannot miss them, as you saw in the image. You can't miss them when you go to the sink area to wash your hands there. Distribution and eyeballs online for the Milepost magazine. The visibility of the posters across the different places that we have those posted. So I think we can compile some numbers that would give us a good idea about, you know, how many people have actually seen those images and been exposed to that information, that national hotline. In terms of, you know, how many people have actually reported incidents, I don't think we have a good way to track that. So the measurable that I think we would really look at is how many people did we actually touch? How many people saw it?
Commissioner McMurray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me just add in, Jeff, to your comments of how important this is, and Scott had another impact in his team with human trafficking with our heroes and champs. Our heroes actually, when they provide assistance to somebody, they had a card that was sort of just an informational card, kind of about what they do. But we also put this human trafficking information on that card because they, believe me, the men and women, the hero and champs, see lots of things. And they have been trained to know how to hand those cards out, and it may be to multiple people in a vehicle, or that may be out of the vehicle, such that they're trying to make sure, you know, that they at least have that number. So that's another touch point. Again, you never know what the outcome of that may be, but I feel like that's a really important one, because again, those folks deal with a lot of things on the roadways of Georgia that you can hardly imagine. So just wanted to throw that out too, because Scott worked hard with First Lady Kemp's team in getting that down to something that can be basically on the size of a business card that you can hand out in sort of a trying to think of the right word, not a confidential way, but a real easy way. If they see something, they've been trained, as well. Each employee, we've taken anybody as a frontline worker, maintenance employees, operations folks, our heroes, took online training for recognition of human trafficking, so they have even a awareness to sort of look for what to look for out there on the side of the road or helping people. So another good touch point.
That training program alone was a Herculean effort on the part of our training department, so we're grateful for them. And it really is part and parcel of this overall communications campaign, because being able to identify our workers on the roads, looking at suspicious activity and knowing what to do to report it, is very important.
Thank you again, Scott, for that great presentation. It's very enlightening.
Thank you very much.
If there's no other questions, we stand adjourned.